everyone, my name is Dr. Ruchi Mishra Tiwari. I'm sure you must have liked and subscribed my channel Mahesh English Times. I have already given one video on Shakespeare's Hamlet. This is my second video on Shakespeare series and it is based on the famous play Macbeth. So let's get going. Now this play Macbeth was first staged in 1606. It is written by William Shakespeare. As we know, William Shakespeare is the famous dramatist of English literature. His name is written in golden letters in English. His time period was from 1564 to 1616, and he's got the title the Bard of Avon. Macbeth was first staged in England in 1606. It's a very famous tragedy. On Shakespeare's drama, many movies in Hindi have been made. Like on Hamlet, there was a movie called Heather, and this movie called Macbeth was based on the famous tragedy Macbeth. So we are going to study the details of this drama. The main characters in this play are, as you can see, Duncan, the King of Scotland; Malcolm, the eldest son of Duncan; Macbeth, the Thane of Glamis, the Thane of Cawdor, and later he becomes the King of Scotland. Lady Macbeth is wife of Macbeth. She becomes the Queen of Scotland. Banquo is a good friend of Macbeth and also a Thane. And Macduff is a Thane of Fife and is a very loyal Thane, loyal to the Scotland kingdom. The themes in Macbeth are of ambition, tyranny, guilt, violence and destiny. The most important theme is of ambition. How the ambition of the character of Macbeth dominates him and influences his and his wife's psyche in such a way that they are ready to take up evil paths to fulfill their ambition, and ultimately they face the doom. So this is the tragedy of Macbeth. Macbeth is the central character. He is the Thane of Glamis, and later on he becomes the king. Now the story starts in such a way that there is a lot of wind and rainfall and storm occurring on the kingdom of Scotland. Now Scotland is a country which is adjoined by England and Ireland. There are three countries together, and on the north of England is the country called Scotland. Now this country of Scotland that time was ruled by Duncan. Duncan was the name of the King of Scotland, and Macbeth was the Thane in the army of the King of Scotland. Thane basically means is the general in the army of the kingdom of Scotland. Now Duncan is a very simple person and he is ruling the kingdom of Scotland. Macbeth was the general in his army. Macbeth and Banquo were fighting the battle on the borders of Scotland. There were two battles happening. Once there was a invasion from the Western Isles, and there was one of the another battle was like one of the Thanes of the Scotland kingdom, the Thane of Cawdor. He just gets rebellion. He rebels and becomes a traitor, and along with England he attacks the kingdom of Scotland. So Macbeth, being the general in the army, he fights the battle and he defeats the enemies and becomes a hero in the two battles. So he is considered a very brave person who is, the characteristics which come out at the beginning of the play in Macbeth is that Macbeth is a very brave general. He is loyal to Scotland. So when Macbeth and Banquo, they are considered as heroes in the battle, they win the battle, they safeguard the country of Scotland. And when this news reaches the King Duncan, the King of Scotland, he becomes very happy and he decides that he should praise and appreciate and give a promotion to Macbeth. Now Macbeth and Banquo, they are declared as winners and they're moving towards the king's palace. Now in the meanwhile, in the beginning it is shown that there are three witches. Banquo is of course the friend of Hamlet. Now there are three witches who are waiting for a person called Macbeth. They did not know who the Macbeth is, but these three witches are called Weird Sisters. Now another thing that I want to mention here is in all the Shakespeare's plays we have some supernatural elements who decide the destiny or turn the destiny of the important characters of Shakespeare's play. So these supernatural elements like the ghost or the witches are always present in Shakespeare's tragedies. Now these three witches are waiting for a person called Macbeth, whom they are not aware of, and these witches, they deliver this dialogue: fair is foul and foul is fair. So this is present in Act 1, Scene 1, line 11. Fair is foul and foul is fair. So these lines they utter, which is a very famous dialogue, which means that whatever appears good now may not turn out to be good in the end, and whatever appears bad now may not turn out to be bad. Like the character of Macbeth, who appears to be a very brave soldier, but he may not turn out to be as brave and as good as supposed to be. So these three switches. Now Macbeth and Banquo, they are returning from their battlefield. They are moving towards the kingdom, towards the king's palace, and they happen to meet the witches. And these witches, when they meet, they deliver three prophecies, or they make three predictions in front of Banquo and Macbeth. And they say Macbeth will become the Thane of Cawdor, Macbeth will become the king of Scotland, and Banquo's children will be kings. Banquo himself will not be able to become a king, but his kids are going to be the rulers of different countries. But for Macbeth, there were two predictions, that he is going to be the Thane of Cawdor and he is going to become the king of Scotland. Now Macbeth is very happy to listen to these prophecies, and he's very excited. Basically from inside he's a very ambitious person, so he listens to those predictions very attentively, and Banquo also listens, and Macbeth becomes so excited that he decides to write a letter to his wife, Lady Macbeth. Now Lady Macbeth and Macbeth, they are husband and wife, they're a beautiful couple, they have a close bond between each other, and Macbeth writes a letter to Lady Macbeth telling her about the predictions that the three witches have made, and this is what lies in future. So Lady Macbeth is very happy to receive that letter. Now as he is moving towards the kingdom, a messenger from the king comes and tells Macbeth that Macbeth has been made the Thane of Cawdor. He was originally Thane of Glamis, but now he has given the title of the Thane of Cawdor because he has won the battle. He has defeated the original Thane of Cawdor, because the Thane of Cawdor has become rebellion, a traitor, and fought against the army of Scotland. So now the Thane of Cawdor, the new Thane of Cawdor, will be Macbeth. So Macbeth is very happy, and he realizes that the first prediction made by the three witches has come true. So he is very happy and excited, and he moves towards the kingdom, to the palace of King of Scotland. Now there, in the palace of King of Scotland, when he meets the king tells him that you have been made the Thane of Cawdor, because the Thane of Cawdor has been sentenced to death as he turned into a traitor, and at the same time you are the Thane of Cawdor, and my son, the son of the King Duncan, was the elder son was called as Malcolm. So he says my son Malcolm is going to be the next king of Scotland. Now this when the king says this, Macbeth did not like it, because he knew that he is going to be the next king. That is what is the prediction of the three witches says, the prophecies of the three witches says. So he's not very happy. Then he comes back home and he tells his wife that this is what the king has declared. But they're very happy that at least he has got the title, the Thane of Cawdor. And the wife of Macbeth is also very, very ambitious. And she tells Macbeth that we should not wait for things to happen, but we should let them happen. We should make things happen now. And if this is the prediction, then the Macbeth should become the king right now. Now, as he is declared the Thane of Cawdor, the king is so impressed by Macbeth that king decides to visit the palace of Macbeth, and king, along with servants, along with his son Malcolm and other people, they become guests to the palace of Macbeth and his wife. They visit him and decide to stay with them for a few days. Now, Lady Macbeth, being the perfect host, she welcomes the king and they have nice dinner and they are enjoying. But at the same time, In another room, Macbeth is confused. He thinks that there is a dagger in his hand. He thinks that, oh, what kind of images he's getting in his mind are not very holy. They're very evil images that he's getting, because his wife has already asked him to kill the King of Scotland, that is Duncan. So the wife, again, Lady Macbeth comes to his room and asks him that, he should go ahead and murder the King of Scotland, Duncan. Now, King Macbeth is not very much convinced about it, because firstly, he was a distant relative of King Duncan, and secondly, at this present moment, King Duncan was his guest. So these are the two reasons which makes him think that he should not be killing the king at this moment. And so he utters a very famous line, which is, "I have no spur to prick the sides of my intent." This is Act 1, Scene 7, line 25 to and 26. So he has no motivation to kill the king at this point of time. But then Lady Macbeth instigates him, and then she says that if you are a man, you should go and implement the plans which have been destined for you. And if she had a baby in her hand, and if she was determined, then she would have killed the baby also. So you should not hesitate thinking who the king is, whether he's a relative or not, and should go ahead with the plan. Now, Macbeth is very much influenced by his wife. He loves his wife. At the same time, a very important thing that is there in his mind is his ambition. So what his wife says and the strong ambition that he has, all these two get together and motivate him to go ahead with the plan of murdering the King of Scotland, Duncan. And then he says, which are the most important lines of this play: "Vaulting ambition which overleaps itself and falls on the other side." Act 1, Scene 7, line 28. So vaulting ambition he had inside him to become the King of Scotland. So ultimately he decides to creep inside the king's room and murder the king. So he goes inside the king's room and he murders King Duncan. So Duncan is killed. At the same time, there was blood in his hand of Macbeth, and the dagger was full of blood. He comes out of the room, he tells his wife, and they both have blood in their hands, and his wife says, we need to just wash off this blood from our hands and everything is going to be fine. We will be free from this act. So they wash their hands, but they put the dagger in front of the servants who were sleeping. So Lady Macbeth had a plan. She had drugged the servants of the king, and so that they forget what happened in the night, and the blame of the murder of the king will be put on the servants or the attendants of the king. As this was happening, there was a knock on the door of the palace and of Macbeth, and when they go and open, it was the Thane of Ife, Macduff. Macduff comes, and he just wanted to see what is going around. Then he moves towards the room where king was sleeping, and then he realizes that the king has been murdered. So there was a lot of chaos that time in the palace. The servants the blame is put on the servants. Malcolm, the son of the king, fears for his own life. He thinks that his life is maybe in danger, so he just runs away from that place. And since there was no one left in Scotland, so ultimately Macbeth is declared the king and Lady Macbeth as the Queen of Scotland. So Macbeth and Lady Macbeth, they become the new king and queen of Scotland. And so Macbeth and his wife, become the king and the queen of the Scotland. Now, as they have committed a crime, and now we will see a series of crime committed. In fact, Macbeth can be called a serial killer, or at least if not involved physically, he has planned murders one by one, again and again in the drama. Now, when he becomes the king, he is very much suspicious of all the people around. So the psychological impact on those two characters of committing a crime is too heavy on Lady Macbeth as well as Macbeth. Now, Macbeth, when he thinks that, as according to the prediction, the children of Banquo will be king, or kings, his children will not be. So he decides that maybe Banquo and his son are a danger to him. So he orders his servants to go and kill Banquo and his son Fleance. So as they were going on a horse ride, the servants or the messengers of Macbeth, they kill Banquo, but somehow Banquo gets alerted and he alerts his son and he says, "Fly, Fleance, fly. You should just get away from this place." and Fleance, the son of Banquo, escapes. Now, when Banquo is killed and the news of Banquo's death reaches Macbeth, Macbeth is in fact not very happy because Banquo was actually a good friend. And inside the palace there was a party going on, and when he goes inside and everybody is sitting, there was one empty chair, and everybody asks the king of Scotland, Macbeth, to take that chair. He says there's no empty chair because he could see the ghost of Banquo sitting on that chair with his blood smeared all over his body. So that, and he gets scared, and then his wife takes him away. And then again when he comes back to the same room, again he sees Banquo moving his head with all blood smeared on his hair and on his shoulders. So he's very much scared and frightened by the whole scene. This is the psychological impact that he's having of doing murders again and again, or ordering for murders again and again. And then everybody is dispersed, and Lady Macbeth starts taking care of Macbeth. The psychological impact of these murders are also on Lady Macbeth. She starts sleepwalking. She's walking in sleep, and she feels, that there is blood in her hand all the time. So there was an attendant who calls her doctor, and the doctor could notice that she is turning into a psychopath. She has psychological problems. There is no blood in her hand, but she is all the time observing that there is blood in her hand, and she tries to, wash those hands all the time, telling the stains to go away. So this is the impact that is happening on Lady Macbeth. And on Macbeth, it was like he is turning suspicious towards everyone. Now again, after this incident, then he calls Lady Macbeth. She often says, what's done cannot be undone. So maybe there is regret inside her that what she has done was not right, and she thinks there is blood on her hand, but what is done cannot be undone now. Now, King Macbeth is also worried about the whole situation. He calls the three witches again, the three witches to predict, and the three witches come again, and they make these predictions again. There were three apparitions. They call the three witches, call the three apparitions, and they predict these three things. Beware of Macduff. So Macduff could be dangerous for Macbeth. Then no one born from mother's womb normally can kill Macbeth. So everybody is born from the mother's womb, so that means nobody can kill Macbeth. And thirdly, beware of the Birnam Wood, which can come to the Dunstan Hill. Dunstan Hill is the palace where Macbeth and his wife live, and Birnam Wood is the name for forest. So they should beware of the forest. So these three predictions are again made. And Macbeth is so confused and overwhelmed by the whole situation. He says, I'm not going to think anymore, I will act. And this is the first prediction was that of beware of Macbeth. So he orders his servants to go into the palace of Macbeth and kill the whole family. So he goes, and Macbeth's wife and his small child gets killed by the soldiers of King Macbeth. And Macduff, in the meantime, has gone to England, where the son of the late king of Scotland, Malcolm, the son of his name was Malcolm. So Macduff gets along with Malcolm. They get together and decide to attack the kingdom of Scotland to defeat Macbeth with the help of army of England. Now, when as Macbeth comes to know that they're going to attack, so he thinks that the walls of the palace in which Macbeth and his wife are living are very, very safe. Nobody can attack. At the same time, he's planning for that battle which is going to come in front of him. At that very moment, they come to know that Lady Macbeth has died. We do not know how she died. Maybe she jumped, but that news comes to Macbeth when he is just planning for a war with Malcolm and Macduff. So Macbeth is really sad, and he goes into introspection and delivers certain monologues and soliloquies. Now the walls are very much strong of the palace of Macbeth, but Macduff and Malcolm, they too plan an attack on the kingdom of Macbeth. So there is a forest which is called Birnam Wood in between Scotland and England. So they go to the forest, they uproot the trees, and they camouflage themselves with those trees. Some soldiers who have turned rebellion against Macbeth, they also join him, and there were some soldiers and army of England. They all get together, and to confuse Macbeth's army and Macbeth's kingdom, so they camouflage themselves with the trees of Birnam Wood, and they move ahead. So anybody could see from a distant side that trees are moving towards the palace of Macbeth to attack him, and these trees were from the forest of Burnham Wood. That was the third prediction, that of the three witches, that you should beware of the forest of Burnham Wood. So as they're moving, Macduff and Malcolm, they are leading the army. They go and they attack Macbeth. So when Macduff confronts Macbeth, Macduff's wife and son were killed brutally by the servants of Macbeth. So Macduff wanted to take revenge. So Macbeth says that no one from a woman's who is born from a woman's womb can kill me. So Macduff says, I was ripped off from my mother's womb. I was not born normally. Maybe it was a cesarean operation and it was a premature delivery. So I was born only in 8 months. So I'm not that normal delivery child. So I can kill. And then we find that he beheads Macbeth. Macduff kills Macbeth and beheads him, and Macbeth is killed. So in the end, Macbeth gets killed. Lady Macbeth had already died, and then Macduff brings that piece of the body of Macbeth, his head, and tells Malcolm. Malcolm was the son of the late king of Scotland, that you are going to be the king because you are originally deserving and you are the son of late King Duncan, so you will be the king. And this is how the story ends. So we get a very strong message from the story that if we are too much overwhelmed by our ambitions, then ambitions can take us to the wrong path. They can take us to the evil path. And once we go into the evil path, then even if we get what we want, we are not happy with it. Like Macbeth and his wife are not happy when they become king and queens, because they are not able to enjoy. Their minds get completely overwhelmed by the psychology of regret and revenge, and their guilt. They are full of guilt. So to fulfill your ambitions, one cannot take evil path, because even if you get what you want, you are not happy. So I hope you like this video. Keep watching Mahesh English Times. Subscribe to my channel. I will come up with one more video on Shakespeare. Thank you so much. God bless.